Let it be known. Good morning, Friday, February 5th, 2021. The agricultural communities across the country have seen a steep decline in black farmers for generations. Black farmers make up 14% of the U.S. farming population in 1910, but today they account for just 1.4%. We're going to talk about that. We're also going to talk about a big day yesterday for the black press and a great meeting at the White House yesterday. We're going to tell you all about that and all the breaking news that came from that. But we start with some breaking news this morning. Just at 5:30 this morning, the Senate passed a budget resolution signed. Well, the deciding vote was from Vice President Kamala Harris. It's a key step that sets up the ability for Democrats to pass President Joe Biden's sweeping COVID-19 relief package without the threat of a filibuster from Republicans who oppose the package. So we're going to start off this morning with our president and CEO, Dr. Ben Chavis. Good morning, Dr. Chavis.
Good morning. Good morning. Pleased to be back with you on behalf of the National Newspaper Publishers Association. We're breaking news every morning on Let It Be Known, and on behalf of Karen Carter Richards, our chair, and our 230 members of the NNPA, African-American owned newspapers and media companies all over the country. We just, every day we're so pleased to have this opportunity to speak and to report the news as it is.
Yeah, so that is some great news this morning, and it shows you you have talked about this a lot, Dr. Chavis, the importance of what happened in Georgia, because it was a 50-50 vote, and Vice President Kamala Harris at 5:35 a.m. to be precise this morning went in and cast a tie-breaking vote. And now this $1.9 trillion COVID relief package that includes $1,400 direct payments to Americans can move forward. And yesterday, Dr. Chavis, speaking of that, led by yourself, our chair, Karen Carter Richards, and Danny Bakewell Sr., our chair emeritus at the Los Angeles Sentinel, we had a emeritus. I say emeritus. I know I say it wrong all the time.
That's all right. Emeritus, chair emeritus is no problem.
We had a fantastic meeting with the White House led by the Honorable Cedric Richmond. Dr. Chavis, there's a lot of things that came out of that meeting yesterday. What was one of the highlights for you?
Well, I think certainly President Biden, Vice President Harris, they put together the most diverse cabinet in the history of the United States, the most diverse White House. And one of the leading persons in the White House, in the inner circle, is the Honorable Cedric Richmond, Congressman Richmond, who served so well representing New Orleans in the Congress of the United States, is now the senior advisor to President Biden and the director of the White House Office of Public Engagement. And we were privileged yesterday to have a briefing for the black press that Congressman Richmond, I should say Director Richmond set up. And it went very well. And I'm very thankful to our chair, Karen Carter Richards, our chair emeritus, Danny Bakewell Sr., and for the executive committee of the NNPA, the executive committee of the NNPA fund, and all of our board of directors and our regional presidents. We have 5 regions, as you know, Stacy, and all of our regional presidents were also on the line. So it was a great exchange. And I think the highlight was the level of seriousness that this administration has taken the question of equity, the question of racial justice, the question of environmental justice, the question of healthcare for Black people, education for Black people, their support of reparations. It just went across the board. Their commitment that they're going to advertise with all of our newspapers, not one federal department, but all federal departments, all agencies. So it was great to hear it. It was on the record. And last time I checked this morning, over 100,000 people have now watched, over 100,000 have watched the video. So it was a historic day for the Black press, historic day for the White House, but it was also a historic day for America. And what better way to celebrate Black History Month?
Yep, absolutely. And I want to, so folks will understand, Chairman Richmond, Director Richmond made it a point when you talk about advertising with the black press. He made it a point to say that this is not, he's not selecting or being selective here. The black press reaches where others don't reach. The black press is important. I want to play a clip from yesterday, Dr. Chavis, number one on the importance of the National Newspaper Publicists Association and the black press.
Yes.
Let me start off by thanking NNPA for what you do. And not everybody knows it, so I'll take a second and just let people know. You tell the unvarnished truth. You give it to us unedited. In many places, that is the most reliable news that people can get, whether they're picking up a copy when they leave church, whether they're picking up a copy when they leave their local corner store or grocery store, or in my case, whether they're leaving their black bank in New Orleans. This is where they pick up the information that they know that they can trust.
They know that they can trust, Dr. Chavis. What a powerful statement. It sounds a simple statement, but a very powerful statement.
Yeah, we are the trusted voice of Black America, and that trust has been earned. This is the 194th year of the Black Press of America, since 1827, when Freedom's Journal was first published in March of 1827. So, we've been at this for a long time, and I'm so proud of our newspapers, our media companies. We are still printing our newspapers, and everybody wants to get a copy, particularly now during COVID-19. People are reading more. So our circulation, our readership is actually going up. And of course, we also have digital editions. We're online, we're on social media, we're on podcasts, we're on radio, we're on television. So I think that the Black press future, as a result of what we heard yesterday directly from the White House, looks very promising. Now it's a matter of us getting a fulfillment of the promises that have been made. But thus far, I have to say that President Biden and Vice President Harris, they're keeping their promises to the Black press. They're keeping their promises thus far to Black America.
Yeah, let it be known. I want to say good morning to Lynn Spivey, Priscilla McMillan, our executive administrator, Claudette Perry, and of course, Bobby Henry with the West Side Gazette down in Florida. And Dr. Chavis, you're right. The Biden Harris administration throughout the campaign, they made promises about diversity and they made promises about racial equity. And I want to play a clip again from yesterday, number 2, on racial equity and what the Honorable Cedric Richmond had to say about that.
Right.
This is part of where I would say let past actions give you an inference. But let me just start with how serious the president is on racial equity. On his first day, one of his executive orders was establishing a whole of government plan on racial equity. And that is holding every agency, every department accountable, and finding out where we are now and moving towards progress. And so it will be housed in DPC. Ambassador Rice will be in charge of it, and he gave it to Ambassador Rice because she is phenomenal, and I will assist her in any way that I can. But we are absolutely dead serious about racial equity. And so
they're dead serious about
racial equity and ending racial injustice and dealing with the disparities. We're not only disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. If you go down the list, Stacey, African Americans have so many disparities, so many pre-existing conditions, because this oppression, this racism, this white supremacy has gone on for over 400 years. And certainly, if we look at the transatlantic slave trade, it's been going on for over 500 years. And so he also said that, the Black press deserves to be in business with all of the federal departments. So we're not asking for charity. We're asking for a business opportunity. We have the capabilities, we have the capacity to address all of these issues and to also get the messaging out. I think we live in a world where the messaging is very important. What is your perspective? What are your policies? What are the actions that are being taken? And so we also announced yesterday that this is going to be a beginning. Yesterday was the first of many different White House briefings with the black press. So
Yeah.
I want everybody to fasten their seatbelts. We're on the move.
Yeah, and again, Cedric Richmond did say that he was very much looking forward to having regular briefings with the black press. He felt the administration feels that is important, and the administration feels that helping the African American community is important as well. I'm going to play another clip from yesterday, the number 3, where he talks about helping the African American community.
We have received many policy papers on what can and should be done to help the African American community. Some highlight more of the issues that is facing than others, but they all provide a blueprint for addressing those issues. So from the Urban League to the NAACP to Color of Change to Black Lives Matter to the Black Lives Movement, all of, I will say this about the African American community, our activists out there, our young activists, our seasoned activists and leaders. Everybody's been.
Yeah, just to complete that, he says everybody's been thought leaders. The administration appreciates that they've taken in a lot of information from the community, which is very important because you talk about stakeholders. We are often forgotten, Dr. Chavis. So this was a really impressive meeting that we had with the White House, led by Cedric Richmond.
Absolutely, and we're very grateful to Cedric Richmond, and we want to continue to have that relationship. I believe the next briefing will be with the Honorable Susan Rice, who is also Ambassador Rice, who has been appointed by President Biden to be the point person on all the equity considerations. She's also the director of the White House Policy Council, Public Policy Council. And that's going to be across the board on all of the issues. And we're looking forward to that. And we're going to try to get that briefing also during this month, Black History Month, 2021.
Dr. Chavis, I also thought it was very interesting, and we're going to play this as well, that their position, the Biden administration's position on reparations. I thought this was really interesting. Let's take a look at what Cedric.
The next question is about reparations. Where does the Biden-Harris administration stand on the enactment of H.R. 40? That's the bill to create a study commission on reparations. And if it doesn't get through the Senate, will the president issue an executive order to establish a national reparations commission?
Well, we have two things on that. One, we do support a commission in H.R. 40. Two, we know we can't wait. And maybe it's three things. And three, we have to start acting now. We don't need a study to tell us there's systemic racism out there. We don't need a study to tell us that redlining and Black communities have been treated a lot different. If I think the president, and I traveled with him throughout the campaign, I know I've heard this speech a million times, that a home in a Black neighborhood built the same way, same material, is going to be worth almost 30% less than the same home in a white neighborhood. And those are the things we want to deal with. And so we don't need a study to tell us that we support a study. But the truth of the matter is we don't think the Black community should have to wait on the study. We need to start dealing with systemic racism in housing and education and all of those things right now.
Right now, we don't need a study, Dr. Chavis.
Well, yeah, that's great. I think that just procedurally, in order to get the federal funding, a study is necessary. So I think what he laid out was that while a study has been put in place, we're going to take some action. That the Biden administration is going to take some action. So I think that H.R. 40 is an important piece of legislation. Sheila Jackson Lee has worked so hard as one of the point persons to put forward the legislation. So I think the White House is aligned. The White House supports H.R. 40. And while they're getting the study together, there's going to be actions on terms of ending and challenging and eradicating white supremacy from every fabric of American life.
Yeah, absolutely. Dr. Chavis, the meeting went extremely well. We are so thrilled that you were able to put that together. So hats off to you, Dr. Chavis. And some breaking news this morning, and this comes from our producer, Enchanta Jackson, that the mother of the 9-year-old young girl in Rochester, New York, has announced that she is suing the Rochester Police Department. It was a She said she called for mental health assistance. She didn't call for her daughter to be pepper sprayed, to be handcuffed and shoved in back of a police car by all of these officers. It was 10 officers who responded to this, and that was really incredible for a 9-year-old girl. And as you said, Dr. Chavis, I echo what you said. The mental health issue was on the side of the police. They need mental health evaluation to handle children like that. So let it be known, the family of that young girl has announced their intentions to file suit. And moving along now, agriculture communities across the country have seen a steep decline in Black farmers for generations. As we said at the top, Black farmers made up 14% of the U.S. farming population in 1910, but today they account for just 1.4%. Joining us now from the University of Rutgers is Dr. Derrick Darby. He's a professor of philosophy, and he is very much in favor of legislation that was put forth by Senator Cory Booker, the Justice for Black Farmers Act. Good morning, Dr. Darby.
Good morning. Good morning to you both. Thank you for having me.
Well,
yes, Dr. Darby, thank you. And we appreciate the great work you're doing there at Rutgers. You know, I live in Washington, D.C., but also have a residence in Montclair, New Jersey. And I really appreciate the work that Rutgers University does, and your leadership. And Senator Cory Booker, that's my senator.
That's our senator, and we are so proud of him and happy to have him.
Yeah, absolutely. And Professor Darby, Black-owned farmland could expand under this bill sevenfold. If this bill does pass, the Justice for Black Farmers Act would enable Black farmers to acquire up to 160 acres apiece at no charge through a USDA system of land grants. And under the bill, an equity commission would study the legacy of discrimination at the USDA and suggest reforms that could reach the farmer elected county committees that help guide operations at local USDA offices. So tell us, Dr. Darby, how important is this legislation?
Well, I tell you, Stacey, I think you all mentioned HR 40, but to tell you the truth, I think that this proposed bill is the most significant piece of legislation that could be passed under the Biden-Harris administration, and we need to put every effort into making it happen. I noted the comment about being dead serious about racial equity. The truth is that if we're dead serious about racial equity, we have to be about substance over symbolism. And substance requires us to deal with the legacy of economic violence in the United States of America that has deprived Black farmers and ranchers of their land, that have created an unequal playing field, that have disadvantaged them in competition, and has also put them behind the 8 ball in terms of getting loans and in terms of being able to pass on the knowledge of farming and the land to their kids and to continue that tradition, that great tradition of the Black farmer. So we have to be about substance and deal with this issue. 100 years ago, there were over 900,000 Black farmers in the United States, mostly in the South, of course. And as you pointed out, Stacey, at 2%, under 2% now, 1.4%, there are fewer than 35,000. This is a serious drop-off, and all of it has to do with the legacy of institutional racism in the U.S. Department of Agriculture. And the Justice for Black Farmers Act that Cory Booker introduced is meant to address this serious legacy.
Yeah, and Dr. Chavis, doesn't that tie hand in hand with environmental racism?
Well, it's connected, but I think that Professor Darby is right. Undergirding this situation where it's just not that we just somehow miraculously lost that much land from 900,000 farmers down to 35,000 farmers. This was systematic. This was deliberate. And so the Justice for Black Farmers Act, again, is not asking for favoritism. Well, we're asking, it's almost similar to what's going on in South Africa, apartheid. I mean, the land, that land was taken from Black farmers. You know, it wasn't willed away, it wasn't given away, it was taken through systematic racism and white supremacy. And if I go back even over 100 years ago, 200 years, almost 200, right after the Civil War, you know, we never got to 40 acres in the land, 40 acres in a mule. And the reason why that was a provision right after the Civil War is because we were farmers. We knew how to till the land. I'm from North Carolina originally. I know something about Black farmers and about the sustainability of our Black-owned businesses. Our first Black-owned business was Black farmers, you know, and then it grew into Black-owned banks, Black-owned specialty shops, barber shops, beauty parlors, land grants, institutions. It was all based on land. If you own land, then there's no greater wealth than to own your own land and to till your own land, produce your own land. So I agree with Dr. Darby that this would be transformational if we can get the Justice for Black Farmers Act passed. And again, we thank Senator Cory Booker and others who are now signing on the legislation. And hopefully, if we're ever going to get something like that passed, Professor Darby, it is now during the Biden-Harris administration when there's a willingness to address systemic racism. You noticed yesterday, President Biden spoke at the State Department about foreign policy, about policy international. But he also in that address said that the United States is finally going to deal with systemic racism. So they're committed, and not just with words and not just with symbolism, but they're committed with action. And I think that's what we are not only going to expect, but that's what the Black press is going to also help to push for in terms of the Congress, in terms of the regulatory bodies, and all of the agencies that are charged now to implement these new policies and these new laws.
Yeah, and Dr. Darby, some would ask the question, how does a professor of philosophy get so involved in Black farmers?
Well, you know, my work has been thinking about what I call the American delusion. America holds itself out as the land of freedom, opportunity, equality. It represents itself as the shining city on the hill. And to be sure, America has made significant progress in terms of race relations. But as we all know, there's still a lot of work to be done. And a lot of the work to be done now is the difficult work, as Dr. King once told us, of dealing with America's economic problem. And that economic problem is one that we see, for example, when we look at the toll that COVID-19 has disproportionately impacted on Black people and their ability to provide for themselves and their family, their inability to deal with the various health-related issues because they don't have adequate health care and so forth. And part of that is, again, looking at this legacy of the Black farmer in the United States. So this is all part of a larger set of examples that American history is littered with of the American delusion. And our job, as Dr. Chavis said now, is to make sure that we're holding the administration accountable. We should celebrate, but we should not spend all of our time celebrating. We have to get stuff done, and we have to get stuff done on these economic issues that are so pressing and so significant. Part of the Justice for Black Farmers Act, people don't know this. They're going to provide 160 acres, up to 160 acres for eligible Black individuals with 0% loans for 7 years and no payments for 2 years, as well as a single family home mortgage. Can you imagine what that could do to help deal with the wealth gap in America? In addition, they're going to support our HBCUs with expanding the curriculum to deal with agricultural studies, providing for scholarships. There's going to be easier access to credit. So these are all significant measures that are in this bill that Senator Booker has put forward, and we need to get behind it.
Yeah, and you'll be reading a lot more of this on blackpressusa.com and in our 230 member newspapers and media companies. Dr. Chavis, last word from you.
Yes, I would just want to thank. I'm always impressed and salute. I want to salute Dr. Darby and his work. We need professors of philosophy. Philosophy is not only what you do, but it's also what you think before you do. And I think the philosophical underpinning, the false ideology, the mental illness of white supremacy is finally being challenged, not only by Black people, but by white people. But keep in mind, if only Black people complained about white supremacy, it would never change. But now we have white people. We have the president of the United States calling out white supremacy. And certainly he has a dynamic vice president of the United States standing right there with him, shoulder to shoulder. And so this is a new day in America, and the fact that you reported at the top of the news that this Senate passed with Vice President Kamala Harris's vote 51-50 to do the resolution so that the $1.9 trillion relief package, rescue package for America, which includes a number of economic relief, Dr. Darby, for Black Americans, for Black-owned businesses, and for Black healthcare institutions and HBCUs. So we're moving forward. And therefore, I'm just so thankful that the Black press of America is in position to work with this administration. We have to gain ground now. Last 4 years were very difficult under the Trump administration, who was almost an advocate. The last administration was almost an advocate, giving a green light to white supremacy. So now, not only there's a red light to white supremacy, but it must be dismantled. So my point is, and I want to just say thank you to Dr. Darby again, his philosophical understanding. He's using his intellectual genius to help us dismantle the very philosophical framework of white supremacy. Nobody's born a racist.
Right.
That's a product of your socialization. That's a product of your miseducation. And that, unfortunately, is a product of your ignorance. And certainly we need distinguished professors like Dr. Darby and others around the world, our intellectual giants. Carter G. Woodson was an intellectual giant. He had a PhD in philosophy. And that's why we have Black History Month today, because of that intellectual, philosophical giant.
Well, thanks again, Dr. Derrick Darby from Rutgers University. We hope you can come back and join us again for a much more detailed discussion. We talk about Black History Month, and of course, and thinking about Black History Month today, we remember Allison Dunnigan. She was the first African-American female White House correspondent. She was also the first Black female member of the Senate and House of Representatives press galleries. Her love for writing began when she was 13, penning one-sentence pieces for the Owensboro Enterprise. She became the chief of the Associated Negro Press in 1947, which would allow her a year later to become the first female African-American to follow a president's campaign out on the road. While she had to pay her way to cover Harry Truman on his Western campaign trail, she would finally receive the respect she deserved when John F. Kennedy was elected. She would serve as an education consultant of the President's Committee on Equal Employment Opportunity until 1965. Allison Dunnigan. And this Sunday is Super Bowl Sunday, so remember, if you plan to have a gathering, follow guidelines and do it safely. And remember to watch the Chavis Chronicles with Dr. Chavis at 11 a.m. this and every Sunday on PBS and PBS World. Let it be known, remember, a farm is more than land and crops. It is a family's heritage and future. We will see you on Monday.